Welcome to Wordsmith Soundscapes, immersive classic sci-fi tales and beyond. Here, classic science fiction comes alive through stories that ignited dreams of the future. Prepare to embark on a voyage through narratives that continue to inspire and captivate. Without further ado, let Love and Moondogs, by Richard McKenna, transport you into another world. The true dog, madam, was originally the golden jackal, Canis aureus. He must love and be loved, or he dies. The headline on the newspapers stacked in front of the drugstore read, "Rust dog reaches moon alive." A man in a leather jacket stopped to scan it. Across the street, frost lay crisp on the courthouse lawn, and the white and tan spotted hound put up his forepaws on the kitchen stool as if to warm them. The four women were too busy hauling down the flag to notice. Martha Stonery in the Persian lamb coat paid out the halyard. Monica Flint in the reddish muskrat and Paula Hart in the brown fox caught the flag and folded it, careful not to let it touch the wet cement. A postman and the man in the leather jacket stopped on the sidewalk to watch. Martha, plump face grim under pinch-nose spectacles, fastened one halyard snap to a metal ring taped and wired to the dog's right hind leg. "Hoist away, girls." Monica, Paula, and Abigail Silax in nutria hauled in unison while Martha held the flag. The hound scrabbled with his forepaws and barked frantically. As he went struggle-twisting upward, he began to howl in a bell-like voice. The women grunted with effort. People were coming across the lawn, and pale faces moved behind the courthouse windows. "2 block," Martha said. Vast hauling and belay. She pulled the kitchen stool nearer the flagpole and climbed on it to face the small crowd across the shelf of her bosom. Cars were stopping, people streaming in from all sides. Martha patted her piled gray hair and made her thin lips into a parrot beak. "Fellow Americans," she cried above the howling. "Our leaders are cowards, and it is time for the people to act before the Russians come and murder us all in our beds. We, the United Dames of the Dog, hereby protest the Russian crime of putting a trusting, loving dog on the moon to starve and freeze and smother and die of loneliness. This dog above our heads cries out to the world against the Russian breach of faith between dog and man. He will stay there until the Russians bring their dog home safely or make amends for their crime." "Like hell," said the man in the leather jacket, moving in. "Martha," Abigail shrieked. "He's taking it down." Monica pulled at his wrists. Paula slapped and scratched at his face. "You brute, you coward," they shrilled. Martha jumped off the stool and kicked him. He backed away, bent and holding himself. "Look, ladies," he gasped. "For God's sake, here now, this is county property," said a fat man in shirt sleeves with pink sleeve garters pushing through the crowd. "What's all this? Take that dog down, somebody." "Never," Martha snapped. She put her back against the halyard cleat, unfolded the flag, and draped it around herself. A loose strand of gray hair fell across her face. "If you're so big and brave, go bring down the Russian dog," she told the fat man coldly. "Now listen, lady," the fat man said. The Clarion Press photographer was sprinting across the lawn. George Stonery was tall, thin, stooped, and anxious in a gray business suit. "I came as soon as I could," he told Sheriff Breen across the scarred, paper-littered wooden desk. "I was away checking one of our warehouses." "You can make bail for her in 2 minutes right across the hall," the sheriff said, scratching his jowl. "She wouldn't make it for herself. Said we had to lock her in our Sputnik." "Where is she now?" "In the Sputnik." The desk phone rang and the sheriff growled into it. "Hell you say, State 43 just past Roy Farm, right? I suppose you already heard what we had on the lawn here this morning." The phone gave forth an excited gobbling. The sheriff's red eyebrows rose in disbelief and his heavy jaw dropped in dismay. He put down the phone. "That was city," he told Stonery. "Complaint about a dog hanging by one leg from a tree just outside city limits. But it's going on all over town, 2 dogs hanging on trees, out of windows, off clotheslines, every squad car is out. Your old lady sure started something." "What did she do?" Stonery asked in anguish. The sheriff told him. "Kicked a big fat deputy where it hurts, too. Maybe we ought to hold her after all. She says she's president of the United Dogs of something." "United Dames of the Dog," the thin man corrected. "They hold meetings and things. She started it when the Russians put up their second Sputnik." "Well, I hope none of them dames lives out in the county," the sheriff said, rising. "You fix up bail, Mr. Stonery. I got to send out a deputy." Walking past the flagpole with her husband, Martha Stonery wore an exalted look. "All over America dogs will cry out in protest against the Russian crime," she said. "I have kindled a flame, George, that will sweep away the Kremlin." I, a weak woman, insisted on driving herself home in her new station wagon. Sirening police cars passed Stonery 3 times as he drove home in the evening. Outside the tan stucco ranch-style house on Euclid Avenue, cars blocked the driveway and a crowd milled on the lawn. Stonery parked under the oak tree at the curb and got out. Martha stood in the living room by the picture window and harangued the crowd through a screened side panel. Centered in the window, her spaniel Fifilo writhed. Hanging by a hind leg from the massive gilt floor lamp and yipping piteously. Martha had on her suit of gray Harris tweed and her diamond brooch. Moral pressure the Russians simply cannot resist. Stonery heard her shouting as he joined the crowd. The men talk, but the United Dames of the Dog are not afraid to act, putting a dear little dog on the moon to die of heartbreak. Several young men near the window scribbled on white pads. "How many members do you have, Mrs. Stonery?" one asked. "The UDD is bigger than you think. Man, bigger than the Russians think for all their spies and traitors." Stonery sidled in and tried the front door. She locked it, one of the reporters told him. "The cops went back for a warrant. Say you're Stonery." "Yes," the thin man said, flushing. A press camera flashed and he put up his hands too late to shield his face. "Give us a statement, Mr. Stonery, before the cops come back." The reporters clamored. Stonery backed off, waving his hands. "Please, please," he said. "She cracked." A reporter asked, "When did you first notice?" "Please," Stonery said. "Yes, she's upset. Her oldest son went into the state penitentiary in California last week. She's very upset about it." "He kills somebody?" the same reporter asked. "No, oh no, just armed robbery. Please don't print that, boys." "Here come the cops back," someone shouted. Two policemen crossed the lawn, one waving a paper. "Here is our warrant of forcible entry, Mrs. Stonery," he called out. He began reading it aloud. "The UDD will not shrink from any extremes of police brutality," Martha cried sharply. Fifilo struggled and yelped louder. The second policeman smashed the lock with a 10-pound sledge. The reporters swept Stonery into the house with them. One policeman untied Fifilo and held him in his arms. He strained his head back and away from the spaniel's whimpering kisses. Martha glared selflessly while flash bulbs popped. Stonery pulled gently at the other policeman's sleeve. "May I come along, officer?" he asked. "I'm her husband. I'll have to arrange bail." "Not taking her," the policeman said. "No room left in the pokey. Since 2 o'clock we've been arresting the dogs." The bellboy put down the silver bucket of ice cubes, pocketed the quarter, and went out. The skinny secretary put a bottle of whiskey beside it and turned to that fat adjutant sprawled shoeless on the bed. "Looks like Governor Bob will be a while yet, Sam," the secretary said. "Shall we drink without him?" "Hell yes, I need one, Dave," the adjutant said in his frog voice, wiggling his toes. "Bob must be having himself a time with that Stonery dame." He chuckled and slapped his belly. The secretary tore wrappers off 2 tumblers and clinked ice into them. His rabbit face with its spectacles framed in clear plastic expressed a rabbity concern. "It ain't for laughs, Sam," he said. "It's like the dancing mania of the Middle Ages. Ever hear of it?" "No." "Do they string up dogs by a hind leg too?" "No. Only danced. But it was catching like this is. My God, Sam, it's all over the state now, UDD. Women running in packs at night, singing, hanging up every dog they can catch. Sam, it scares me." He splashed whiskey into the 2 glasses. The adjutant belched, sat up in a creaking of bed springs, and scratched his heavy jaw. "You're thinking they might start hanging up us poor sons of bitches, ain't you?" he asked. "Hell, call out the guard, clamp on a curfew." He reached for a glass. "Yes, and the Russians'll fake pictures of your boys sticking old women with bayonets," the secretary said. "Governor Bob couldn't get reelected as dog catcher, even." The adjutant drained his glass, lipping back the ice, and whistled his breath out through pouting lips. "Good, needed that," he grunted. "Dave, Bob's got that Stonery dame by the short hairs. He'll swing her into line. Just that about her boy in the state pen out in California is enough. Brown would do Bob a favor and spring him, or the papers here would splash it. Either way." I know," the secretary said, sipping at his drink. "We'll see when Bob gets here. Meanwhile, as of yesterday, we had 33,726 dogs in protective custody and God knows how many more under house arrest. $16,000 a day it's costing us." He broke off as a knock sounded on the door. He hastily tore the wrapper off another glass and splashed it full of ice and bourbon. The adjutant padded to the door and opened it. The governor, a stout, florid man in a gray sports coat, came in and sat stiffly on the edge of the bed. The secretary handed him the drink and he gulped half of it before speaking. "No smoke, boys," he said finally. "She give it to me just like she does to the papers. We got to go to the moon or make the Russians do it and bring that poor, dear, sweet, trusting, cuddly little dog back to Earth again." "How about her kid out on the coast?" the adjutant asked. "She spit in my eye, Sam. Said she was just as brave to be a martyr as the dogs they string up. Why, she even told me about another boy of hers living in sin with a black woman down in Cuba and dared me to give that to the papers, too. She sounds tough as she looks." "She's tougher," the governor groaned. "Like blue granite. I felt like I was back in the 3rd grade. He handed his empty glass to the secretary. "What did you finally do?" the secretary asked. "What the hell could I do? I want that UDD vote. It must be a whopper." I wagged my tail and barked for her and said I had an idea. "And now I got to think up the idea," the secretary said, still holding the empty glass. "No, I thought it up on my way back," the governor said. "I'm going to fly to Washington this afternoon." "Not the army, for God's sake," pleaded the adjutant. "No, I'm going to dump it on the Russian embassy. Damn their black hearts, they started this. Hurry up with that drink." "Watch out you don't lose your donkey for sure and all," the adjutant said. "Them Russians are smart cookies." "They'll have to be," the governor said, reaching for the fresh drink. "They sure as hell will have to be." All the folding chairs were taken. Extra women stood in the aisles and along the side of the hall. Martha Stonery bulged over the rostrum in blue knitted wool and a pearl necklace, seated around a half-circle of chairs behind her. Pack leaders and committee chairwomen smoothed at their skirts. Monica Flint in dove gray sat at the organ. Martha pounded with her gavel so hard that her pearls rattled. "Everyone will please stand while we sing our hymn," she said into the resultant hush. She nodded to Monica, who began to play. "I did not raise my dog to ride a Sputnik. I will not let him wander to the moon." The song was a shrill thundering. Martha beamed across her bosom as the crowd settled itself again. "I have a most thrilling announcement to make before we adjourn, girls," she said. "But first we will have committee reports. Paula Hart, will you begin?" She yielded the rostrum. All the reports were favorable. The UDD was getting 4 times as many column inches in the state press as the Russian moonship. It was on TV and radio. A life team was coming. Changes were recommended. Vigilante packs were not to carry hat pins anymore. 2 policemen had lost eyes, and the police were being ugly about it. A bar of soap in a man's sock was to be substituted. More practice on the clove hitch was needed. Too often, in their excitement, the pack ladies were only putting 2 half hitches around the leg, and the dog could struggle out of it. Martha came back to the rostrum to read the honor roll of those whom dogs had bitten or policemen had insulted. Each heroine came forward amid cheers and clapping to receive a certificate exchangeable for the Bleeding Heart Medal as soon as the honors committee could agree on a design and have a supply made up. Martha shook the hands, some of them bandaged, and wept a few tears. "And now, fellow UDD members," she said, "I will tell you my surprise. Tomorrow morning I have an appointment with someone coming from Washington." A sighing murmur swept through the hall. "No, not Eisenhower," Martha said scornfully. "A man from the Russian embassy, a Mr. Cherkasov." Applause crashed shrilly. Women wept and hugged each other. "They want to make peace," Martha shouted ringingly into the tumult. "We've won, girls. Sally out tonight and don't come in until the last dog is hung. We'll show them what it means to challenge the masked UDD-ers of America." The state police cordon kept the 2200 block of Euclid Avenue free of reporters and idle gapers. The state car drove up at 10 o'clock a.m. and parked under the oak tree. Mr. Cherkasov and the 2 taskmen got out. Mr. Cherkasov was stocky and crop-haired in a blue suit. His broad, high-cheekboned face with snub nose and an inward tilt about the eyes managed to seem both alert and impassive. Carrying a pigskin briefcase, he led the way to the Stonery front door. He stepped on the doormat and pressed the bell. The doormat whirred and writhed under his feet, and he stepped back hastily. Martha Stonery, regal in maroon silk, 4-inch cameo and piled gray hair, opened the door. "Don't be afraid of the doormat, Mr. Cherkasov. You are Mr. Cherkasov, aren't you?" she asked sweetly. He nodded, looking from her to the doormat. "Your weight presses something and the little brushes spin around and clean your shoes," she explained. "I expect you don't have things like that in Russia, but do please come in and sit down." The 3 men stepped carefully across the mat on entering. In the oak-paneled living room, Paula Hart waited in black wool and pearls with Monica Flint, who wore white jade and green jersey. Martha and Mr. Cherkasov made introductions back and forth, and the men bowed stiffly. Then Martha sat down, flanked by her aides, on the gray sofa facing the picture window. The men sat in single chairs and rubbed their polished black shoes uneasily against the deep-pile gray rug. "Madam Stonery, I have come to justify Moondog," Mr. Cherkasov said. His voice was deep and controlled. "2 wrongs don't make a right, Mr. Cherkasov," Martha said, raising her head. "You needn't bring up Hiroshima. We already know about those thousands of little black and white spaniels. Besides, I saw a life picture where you sewed a little dog's head to the side of a big dog's neck." Mr. Cherkasov looked at his stubby fingers and hid them under his briefcase. Paula and Monica nodded accusingly, and one taskman made a note. "We do not believe it is a wrong when a greater value prevails over a lesser," Mr. Cherkasov said. "Moondog sends us information that will hasten the time of safe space travel for humans. And who might you be to say which value is greatest? Space travel is moonshine, just moonshine." "I do not understand your word, madam. If you mean impossible, I must point out that Moondog has already crossed space." Martha clasped her hands in her lap. "That's what I mean, grown men and such silliness, and the poor little dog has to pay." Mr. Cherkasov spoke earnestly. "Forgive me if my ignorance of your language causes me to misunderstand, madam. We believe because man now has the ability to cross space, he therefore has a duty to all life on Earth to help it reach other planets. Earth is overcrowded with men. not to speak of the wild life that soon must all die. We believe that around other suns, we will find Earth-like planets where we can plow and harvest and build homes. I cannot agree that it is silly. Martha flung her head back. Well, it is silly. Who'll go? All the men who do things will run away to them, and then where will we be? Oh no, Mr. Cherkasov, that gets you nowhere. Your pardon, madam, a taskman interrupted. What kind of men will run away? The sour-faced men who fix pipes and TV and make A-bombs and electricity and things. Oh, said Mr. Cherkasov. He drummed on his briefcase. Then, perhaps only Russians will go, madam. You could pass a law. I must confess to you, we might have sent a man to the moon, but we feared the propaganda use your country might make of it. Martha made her parrot mouth. You should have sent a man. She chomped the last word off short. Paula and Monica nodded vigorously. Mr. Cherkasov stroked his briefcase. Moondog's mistress wished greatly to go. One might say Moondog saved her mistress' life. Is not that of value to you? Martha stared. Did you dare think of sending a poor weak woman to the moon? Russian women are coarse and strong, Mr. Cherkasov said soothingly. A large number of them among the scientists did volunteer. Martha sat bolt upright and made her parrot beak again, her fat cheeks flushed under the powder. No, she snapped. I see where you're trying to lead me and I won't go. You should have sent the hussy. It is immoral to sacrifice a loving little dog just for a careless whim. Her two aides gazed admiringly at their chieftainess. Think of it just for a whim? Paula echoed. Mr. Cherkasov's fingers traced an aimless, intricate pattern on the briefcase and he crossed his ankles. All dogs are not loving in the same way, madam. Tell me, how do you know when a dog loves you? You just know, Martha said. Take my little Fifilo, and I just know he's so miserable now away from me in that dreadful concentration camp, and it's all your fault, really, Mr. Cherkasov. When I pet Fifilo, he jumps in my lap and kisses me and just wiggles all over. That's real love. Ah, I perhaps understand. What does he do when you speak sharply to him? He lies on his back with his paws waving and looks so sad and pitiful and defenseless that my heart melts and I feel good all over. You just know that's love when it happens to you. Monica dabbed at a tear. Both taskmen scribbled. I think I may see a way to resolve our differences, Mr. Cherkasov said. He put his feet side by side and leaned slightly forward, gripping the briefcase on his knees. What do you know of the history of the dog? He asked. Well, he's always been man's best friend, and the savage Indians used to eat him, and the true dog, madam, was domesticated about 20,000 years ago. He was originally the golden jackal, Canis aureus, which still exists in a wild state. Selective breeding for submissiveness and obedience over that long time has resulted in the retention through maturity of many traits normal only to puppyhood. The modern puriline golden jackal dog no longer develops a secret life of his own with emotional self-sufficiency. He must love and be loved, or he dies. Monica sniffed. What a beautiful name, Paula murmured. Martha nodded warily. But, madam, there is also a kind of false dog. Certain Siberian tribes slow to reach civilized status also domesticated the northern wolf, Canis lupus. This was many thousands of years later, of course, and in the false dog the effect of long breeding is not so evident. He is loving as a puppy, but when he matures he is aloof and reserves his loyalty to one master. He is intensely loyal and will die for his master, but even to him he will display little outward affection. Perhaps a wag of the tail or a head laid on the knee, not too often. No others except quite young children may pet him at all. To all but his master he displays a kind of tolerant indifference unless he is molested, and then he defends himself. What a horrible creature, not a dog at all, Martha exclaimed. Not culturally, you are quite correct, madam, Mr. Cherkasov agreed, shifting his hold on the briefcase and leaning further forward. But unfortunately he is a dog biologically. Some wolf blood has crept into most of the jackal-derived breeds, you know. It betrays itself in high cheekbones and slanting eyes and in the personality of the breed. The chow, for instance, has considerable wolf blood. Chows. Martha beaked her lips again. I despise them, no better than cats. Paula nodded emphatic agreement. But your little Fifilo, as you describe him, is probably of pure Canis aureus descent and very highly bred. I'm sure he is. Blood will tell. Monica, haven't I always said blood will tell? Monica nodded, her eyes shining. Mr. Cherkasov shifted his position slightly, nearer to the chair edge. Now Moondog Madame Stonery is of the Lajka breed and has even more wolf blood than the chow. If you brought her back to Earth, she would just walk away from you with cold indifference. Not really. Madam, you know the wolf traits only as you find them tempered with the loving jackal traits in such dogs as the chow. But a Russian dog, if you were to hand Moondog a piece of meat, do you know what she would do? No, tell me. Mr. Cherkasov leaned forward, his slanting gray eyes opening wide, and dropped his voice almost to a whisper. Madam, she would bite your hand. Then she doesn't deserve to be rescued, Martha said sharply. Mr. Cherkasov straightened up and began stroking his briefcase. In one sense, she is not even a dog, he suggested. No, she's an old wolf thing, like a cat. Dogs are loving. Perhaps not morally worthy of your campaign? No, of course not, Mr. Cherkasov. You have given me a new thought I hadn't realized. Mr. Cherkasov waited attentively, his fingers tracing another pattern. Paula and Monica looked at Martha and held their breaths. Hadn't realized how that subversive wolf blood has been creeping into our loving dogs all this long time. Why? Why, it's miscegenation. It's bestiality. Confess it, Mr. Cherkasov, that's one way you Russians have been infiltrating us now, isn't it? Mr. Cherkasov raised his sandy eyebrows, and a frosty twinkle shone in his tilted eyes. You must realize that I could hardly admit to such a thing, even if it were true, Madam Stonery, he said judiciously. It is true. Go back to your Kremlin, Mr. Cherkasov, and shoot every wolf in Russia to the moon. I'm sure the UDD won't mind. Mr. Cherkasov and the task men stood up and bowed. Martha rose and sailed ahead of them to the door. Hand on knob, she turned to face them. Our meeting will be historic, Mr. Cherkasov, she said. I have forced you to betray your country's plot, to undermine our loving dogs. You may expect from the UDD instant and massive retaliation. An aroused America will move at once to set up miscegenation and segregation barriers against your despicable wolf blood. Paula and Monica stood up, each with her hands clasped under her flushed and excited face. Mr. Cherkasov bowed again. Martha opened the door. Goodbye, Mr. Cherkasov, she said. You will, no doubt, be liquidated in a few days. Mr. Cherkasov stepped carefully across the doormat. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the cosmos, brought to you by Wordsmith Soundscapes, immersive sci-fi tales and beyond. If you enjoyed this story, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to explore new worlds, thrilling adventures, and boundless imagination. Have a favorite sci-fi classic or an idea you'd like to hear? Drop it in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, dream boldly, imagine fearlessly, and keep exploring the stars.